Refugee Center is seeing an increase in the number of newcomers from all around the world.
6 News' Johan Marin spoke to the center's director, who says this increase is creating a strain on their staff.
The Intercultural Senior Center gets about 40 refugees every day looking for a new opportunity. These are groups of people that Carolina Padilla, the founder of the center, describes as forgotten.
Our services are for seniors that come from around the world, where the lack of language makes a lot of limitations for them to get into the community and find resources.
Some of these services include entry-level English classes, help with citizenship, and even help with mental health. Padilla says since January, they've seen a 30% increase in refugees.
I think right now it's a mix of those who couldn't come during COVID and the new ones who apply, they were now allowed to come to the United States.
Right now, the center serves nearly 1,300 refugees. A lot of them are coming from Ukraine, Togo, Afghanistan, or our Karen.
And I think it's just because with everything that is going on, there's more, the influx of people coming to the United States.
With so many people coming every day from so many countries, it's creating a challenge for the senior center's staff.
You know, if we don't have the interpreter, it's hard to communicate and be able to help them as they should be.
On your side, Johan Marin, 6 News.
The center welcomes volunteers to help with the refugees. If you're interested, you can find more information on our website at WOWT.com.
Senator